voices in our heads now have a frequency. America's first competition talk show. You're in the Hub.
Yesterday on The Hub, we learned how one health department official in Massawatchie County, Oregon, hit at a little 7-year-old girl who was trying to operate a lemonade stand and shut her down because she, even though you should be able to do all you want to do and create revenue and that kind of thing, and he understood that, John Kawaguchi said, you've got to understand, we've got to put the people's health first. And I said at the time, that a boy, John, go get the Cabbage Patch Con girl. Today, we're going to talk about a guy that was in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, actually robbed a Wendy's restaurant. I don't know why he wasn't robbing a bank. He robbed a Wendy's. He only got $586 out of the heist.
Yeah.
Jared, he called the Wendy's back twice in a 2-hour period to tell them that he didn't get it up, that he was really put out by the take-home pay.
Well, did they offer him some Frosties to go along with it?
It might have been.
If they'd have thrown in a Frosty and a Biggie Fry, I think they'd have been done. It's been a done deal.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, and they really didn't come to his beck and call either. They really didn't see it his way. Imagine that. So it was just heartless. But something that's worrying a lot of law enforcement officials right now is, it's a little more serious note, is a federal appeals court ruling that happened last Friday. Which, if you're familiar with this, the way this process works, if you know someone in law enforcement, you may have gotten in a conversation before about how they track would-be criminals, and in the past have used GPS tracking devices to follow, to track a car, to track a suspect, leading up to an arrest. If there's reasonable suspicion. Well, the federal appeals court ruled that is no longer lawful to track a suspect, use a GPS tracking device beyond a certain period of time. The terminology they used, an extended period of time. In cop speak, that leaves you a lot of gray area. Extended period of time could be hours, minutes, days, weeks.
It does. It does leave a definition there that needs to be clarified a little bit. But I actually like this ruling because I don't like the government being able to track just people just willy-nilly to know what you're doing at all times. And this was over a long period of time. It was, numerous visits between various locations and enough visits for them to draw some sort of discernible pattern from it to convict the guy.
And I see that, but
that's a little concerning.
Yeah, but you do say, there seems to be a paradox here. So the cops can't do it, but OnStar can. So I can't catch the lady or the guy who might be about to, blow up the building. But if mom is getting to work late because she dropped her keys in between the console, then there's, it's all. Thank God we have GPS to track our way home.
And the difference there, though, is that you choose to have OnStar. Well, sort of. You sort of
do
choose.
I have an option anymore?
I don't. Now we may have to all buy GM and all get it here soon. But you do choose to keep your OnStar service and to use it as opposed to the cops just throwing a device on you or using your current GPS or OnStar or whatever. And what I. This was some kind of drug dealer that got arrested and was let go, and it was probably a scumbag. But
as opposed to the clean drug dealers,
as opposed to the friendly,
last night I
off
sold,
weeds,
$5,800 worth of coke, but I'm clean now.
Exactly.
He's got the goods. I'm clean.
But I looked up some stuff on this, and you go back to Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, of all people.
Oh my God!
And I have two actual quotes from him that were very prevalent to this. And he said, one, his role as a judge is to see that the game is played according to the rules, whether I like them or not. And the other thing, and this was actually on wiretapping, which I think is very relevant, in that wiretapping was fairly new at that point. It's a desirable that criminals should be detected and that to all available evidence should be used. But we have to choose, and for my part, I think it's less evil that some criminals should escape than the government should play an ignoble part.
Well, and I can see all that, and it's noble, of course, but Oliver Wendell Holmes, I'm chancing to say, did not have OnStar.
No, he didn't. He didn't have OnStar.
And it might have changed his perspective entirely.
Yes.
They say that this was based primarily on the Fourth Amendment, on unlawful search and seizures. Illegal search and seizures. And I look at that unreasonable search and seizures, the language in the Constitution, and They said that they actually tracked this back to a Supreme Court case in 1983. It was the U.S. versus Knotts, which actually allowed police to put a tracking beacon in a container to follow a driver to a cabin, and then it made it clear at the time that GPS tracking was allowed without a judge's approval. And that was not, in my mind, an unlawful search and seizure because they were searching the inside of a container.
Well, yeah, but
it's whatever you put the thing in, right?
Yeah, but I think this is a container that you have to willfully pick up and put and transport yourself, and not know that there's a device in it, as opposed to getting into your own car and driving around. I think that's a little bit different story.
Well, he voluntarily put it in his car.
And this does not make them illegal. What it makes illegal is doing it without a warrant, and that if you have a warrant to do this, the police can still do this. So the burden of proof is still on the police. They still have to go through a judge, and if the judge says there's enough proof, then they can certainly GPS track you all they want, as long as a judge says, for however long a judge says it's legal. That's the clear distinction. The police just can't do it just to do it, just because he's got a hunch. That's the kind of police work that gets a little gray and gets a little scary in the hands of the wrong.
Now let's pull an interesting card here, though. Arizona law right now on immigration policy. Let's spin this the other direction, because a lot of folks are saying that right now it's a violation of someone's personal rights by pulling them over out of suspicion that they might be illegal. So how is this any different? I mean, you've got a suspicion that someone might be a criminal, so you're going to preemptively track them.
Well, you can stop them, but see, the Arizona law doesn't allow you to pull them over just for being suspicion of being illegal.
Well, you stop them from a distance and howl at them from like 100 yards
Well, no,
away?
You pull them over for speeding or a busted taillight or whatever. But and then when they hand you a driver's license, then presumption is that they're legal as well. If they have an Arizona driver's license, they're completely legal. Yeah. But you still have to be pulled over for a legitimate reason, and otherwise, if a cop was to pull them over for being Hispanic, then they would get hopefully the courts would say that this case should be thrown out, and at some point the appellate court or Supreme Court would.
So is this just the death of espionage, or do we just have to start doing espionage in exotic locations off of U.S. soil?
As long as it's outside our borders, I'm good with it. You can track everybody you want anywhere, as long as they're not American citizens and within our own borders.
That's good, because I'm thinking if we're doing it outside, I mean, then it's just a matter of keeping criminal activity outside of our borders, which is easy enough to do if you have things like GPS tracking devices. See you tomorrow on The Hub.
Sky like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now, wish right now, wish right now.